Radiation is a very dangerous thing to be around, which makes nuclear power plants a very fickle thing. Much like anything, nuclear power plants carry with them a long list of pros and cons. Although nuclear power plants are quite reliable and rarely go wrong, honestly, things are usually quite catastrophic when they unfortunately do. All you have to do is take a look at the 2011 Fukushima incident, or the most famous nuclear power plant disaster, the 1986 meltdown of reactor number 4 in Chernobyl. Both of these disasters caused the displacement of entire communities, as the radiation spreading into the area causes it to be uninhabitable. And by nature of the areas being uninhabitable, the government of whatever country the disaster is in typically creates a quarantine or exclusion zone, keeping citizens far away from the source of the accident and the radiation. And since normal citizens wouldn't be allowed in a quarantine zone, it would make for a perfect place to hide some nasty government secrets. And that is the premise of Atomfall.
Please, I beg of you. Just forget you saw anything here and go. Please.
Atomfall was developed and published by Rebelion Developments and was released on March 27, 2025 for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, and Windows PCs. I played it on PC through PC Game Pass, so all footage you are seeing is from that platform, recorded using OBS. I also played a good chunk of this game on my Lenovo Legion Go, and it ran honestly shockingly well. I guess I shouldn't be super surprised with it also being on last-gen consoles, but I was still kind of shocked. I definitely had the graphical settings quite low, but it still held at a rock-solid 60 frames. In Atomfall, you play as an unnamed protagonist in an alternate version of 1960s England, in the area surrounding the Windscale Power Plant. In the real world, the Windscale Power Plant experienced a bit of a whoopsie and had their radioactive fuel set ablaze for about 3 days. Although the fire released radioactive material into England and Europe, the fire was contained after 3 days and the plant avoided a complete and utter meltdown disaster. However, in Atomfall, the fire was never contained and the entire facility melted down and released all kinds of nastiness into the surrounding area. And as the nameless protagonist, you wake up in a bunker in the quarantine zone, unable to remember how you got there. Shortly after waking up, you are greeted by an injured scientist who urges you to make sure the world finds out what the Windscale Power Plant really was and what it was hiding. Upon leaving the bunker, you are contacted by a voice on a telephone that tells you not to trust anyone except him and that Oberon must die. Of course, it is up to you to decide if you trust the voice on the phone and make sure Oberon dies, or find new allies within the quarantine zone and seek answers from someone or somewhere else. First thing I want to discuss is how weary this game I was and how many times I bounced on and off of it before actually starting it. When Atomfall was first revealed, just the visual style of it and the themes at play very much had my attention grabbed. But then it was made public that Atomfall was a survival game. As someone who is not a fan of survival games generally, this initially turned me off of playing it. But then I caught wind that it was a little more of a Western RPG and similar to Fallout and BioShock, which in total honesty, after playing Atomfall, I really don't see where the BioShock comparisons come from. But as someone who loves Fallout and BioShock, this really made me want to play it again. But then I heard there are no mission markers at all, and I am kinda dumb. So then I didn't want to play it anymore. But in the end, my curiosity and the fact that it was on Game Pass one out, and I decided to jump into the game. And I will go into each of these aspects in greater detail, but overall, despite my initial back and forthness with the game, I am quite glad I played it. So let's go down that list of things I mentioned, starting with the style and the themes of the game. If there is something that revolves around radiation and has nuclear disasters at the center of it, I am instantly interested. I don't know why, especially since I am no scientist or anything, but something about radiation and the effects of it and how long-lasting it can be has always intrigued me. Seeing how radiation has impacted the world and the creatures within it is one of my favorite things about the Fallout series. One of my favorite video game series is. So when I found out this game was centered around a real-world nuclear issue, I was like, yeah, buddy! And then add in the alternate history of this world where robots and stuff have been invented and all other kinds of freaky stuff. It's safe to say the vibes of this game are off the charts. Moving on to the survival elements of Atomfall, they are there, but there are not many of them. I would say the most prevalent survival mechanics that are present in Atomfall are the crafting and resource gathering, which I initially scoffed at, as I think crafting and resource gathering is kind of a little too prevalent, and in games it has no business belonging in. But given the nature of this game, I believe it fits well, and not only that, it does not get in the way as it is rather simple. There are really only a handful of different crafting materials, and to make things even better, they have their own inventory and do not take up space in your very limited main inventory. More on that later. But I think this very simple crafting system is what makes the crafting tolerable for me, especially as you don't have to craft stuff or find blueprints for other crafting materials. Pacific Drive, one of the only survival games I enjoyed, link in description below, did frequently annoy me as I would find something I want to build, look at the resources, and find out that resource was locked behind 2 or 3 other resources I needed something special to get. In Atomfall, you can get anything you need without having to get some piece of equipment or a perk. Sure, there may be a perk or two that makes it easier to get certain things, but it is not necessary. But other than the crafting, there are really no other survival elements in this game, at least none that I would call survival elements, except maybe inventory management, but I will talk about that more next. When people started comparing Atomfall to Fallout and BioShock, 2 of my favorite series in gaming, I was very much hooked into this game. But after playing it, like I said, I don't see where the BioShock comparisons come from, other than them both being shooters. But I can very easily see where the Fallout comparisons come from, both the good and the bad, but mostly good. Fallout is a Western RPG that, as of recently at least, is a first-person game, has real-time combat, open world, and is filled with quests, both side and main, to do. Atomfall is a first-person game with real-time combat, an open world, and is filled with quests. This is the most Fallout-esque game I have played in a very long time. However, I would say there are 4 major differences between the two. The first major difference that sticks out to me is the difference in inventory space. In Fallout, you basically play as someone who can bend time and space inside their pockets. You can carry an absurd amount of gear in Fallout. Like you can haul around a rocket launcher, a minigun, a hammer that would make Gallagher blush, and then about another 150 pounds worth of stuff, and still trot across whatever wasteland you are in without issue. Your inventory in Atomfall is much, much more limited. You can still carry more than any person reasonably could, but they definitely make sure you are traveling light. So much so that I probably had a full inventory for more of my playthrough than I didn't, frequently having to decide what to pick up and what to leave behind. And I can assure you that if you play Atomfall, I can almost guarantee you will have the same dilemma. But you don't have to just drop things in Atomfall. You could give it to a vendor in a barter, just like in Fallout. However, in Fallout, you can use money, and in that world it's caps, to make up the difference. For example, in Fallout, if you are trading with someone and you are taking more stuff than what you are giving is worth, you can make up the difference with caps, or just buy things outright with them. Atomfall has no traditional currency like that. Your inventory is your currency. If you are bartering or trading with someone at Atomfall, The only way you can pay for stuff is by parting with other stuff in your inventory. And I actually really like this, as it was a nice change of pace I have never experienced. It made every transaction kind of difficult, as I always had to part with something that was useful to me. Obviously, some things are more useful than others, but there were still times where a vendor had something I wanted, and I had to sit and think about what I could give up in order to get that item. Third, Fallout often has a very large map that can take a while to traverse across. Bethesda makes it a little easier to handle, giving you the ability to fast travel to places you have been before. You just pull up your map, pick somewhere you have been before, and you'll magically appear there, allowing you to traverse the entire map in mere moments and letting you get a head start on where you are trying to go. Not in Atomfall. In Atomfall, in order to travel, you have one option, and that is those 2 stompers below your waist. But Rebellion has made this a little easier to tolerate in 2 ways. First, the map is simply just not as big as Fallout. It actually is significantly smaller, I would say. But secondly, they may not have traditional fast travel, but they do give you shortcuts to get around. The map of Atomfall is comprised of 4 main zones, separated by big metal doors, and require a loading screen to travel between them. But there are 2 underground tunnel systems that connect the entire map that I use to make things easier. One more so than the other, honestly, but I did use both. But there were times I was in one of the underground areas, one of which you will spend a lot of time in regardless, and I was thinking how I had to go out the door I came in at and then walk through 2 or 3 of the above ground zones. But then I remembered I had the map at my fingertips and could go out a door that was more convenient for me. And because of the lack of fast travel, I really had to get familiar with the map, and by the end of my playthrough, I barely had to pull up the map to know where I was going. So what sounds like a negative at the start turned out to be something I really didn't end up missing at all. Lastly, in Fallout, you are guided by mission markers, usually telling you where to go, what to get, who to talk to. Not in Atomfall, although it probably won't be as bad as you think. This initially very much turned me off, as I am kind of an idiot and would almost certainly have no idea what to do for most of the time. But it is nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be, as the game lays everything out quite well, and in plain English. Atomfall does not function off of normal quest structure. You do not get a list of objectives to go through like a checklist. You get leads, things that point you in a direction of where to go, but does not explicitly tell you what to do. They are more so like a push in the right direction, but not a guiding arrow. For example, I had to get some atomic batteries, and instead of saying, there's a battery here, here, and here, the game gives you a list of places you heard batteries can be found, and it is up to you to find where the place is, as well as the battery itself in said location, and how you want to go about procuring it. Even still, when you do look at the map, there are little blue symbols that let you know there is a lead to pursue there, but that's it. It does not say what lead it is or what step in the lead process it is. It's more so to be like, hey, there's something here that might interest you, but you'll have to figure out what that is. And even still, if you are worried, you can go into your leads section of the menu and read through everything you previously have discovered. And it sorts it by the overarching lead. So in the menu, I would go to a heading that pertained to what I was trying to accomplish. I could read through everything I have discovered about that thing, oftentimes with one of the things saying like, I heard this place was somewhere that I could find blah blah blah. It pretty much slaps you in the face with what to do without just outright giving you a marker. Now, branching away from the Fallout comparisons, there are a few more points I want to talk about. While we are talking about quests, I want to talk about the game's quest structure, and do so in the sense that there really are not that many true side quests in my experience. Most of the time when I thought I was doing a side quest, I was actually working towards one of the 6 endings. A couple of times I came across a character and they said they needed help with something, and after I spoke to them, they mentioned that they have something else for me to do. So I heard them out and was just like, I'll have to keep that in mind if I come across that. And it wasn't until I beat the game and looked up all the rest of the endings and I realized, oh, I was actually going down that path towards that ending. Even the one true side quest I can remember that I did It still led me to a major character in the game and someone I could align with and they could help me achieve an ending. And I really like that. Although side quests can be a lot of fun and very much worth doing, it's also nice to be in a situation like this where no matter what you do, you feel like you're making an impact in the game world and always making progress towards something. The combat of this game was hit or miss for me though. On one hand, I really enjoyed the gunplay. There is a variety of firearms that function off of 4 ammo types: pistol, rifle, shotgun, and SMG. Boy oh boy, ammo was hard for me to find. Very rarely did I even have a full mag for my guns. I pretty much always had like a half mag at any given time. The amount of times I had a surplus of ammo for a gun was incredibly rare. Honestly, like no more than maybe 3 times. But I think that adds a good weight to the gunplay. Every shot I fired felt like I was truly losing something valuable. When I missed, it felt like a vital resource was wasted, and that's because it was. Many enemies can be one-shotted to the head, so even a single pistol shot is enough to put someone down and get you out of a single situation. However, the melee combat is pretty lackluster. You have the ability to swing, power swing, and throw melee weapons, as well as a kick to stagger your enemies. And this is just about it. There is no block or dodge or sidestep or anything. Because there's no real way to counter the enemy's attacks, the melee combat kind of feels like you just gotta swing for the fences and there is no real strategy to it. Just attack, 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 and hope your opponent falls to the ground before you do. I would say the dumb enemy AI would be a negative, as they just run straight towards you as you point a gun at them. But that actually works out in your favor, as it gives you time to line up a good headshot and get valuable use out of what few bullets I had, and avoid getting out a melee weapon. Another way you can stay away from melee combat is to stealth around. Now, I am no stealth expert by any means, as I have discussed before, but I feel like the stealth sandbox in this game is very shallow for how much the game encourages it. As I stated, you do not get a lot of ammo to fight with, so stealth should be your first option. But your only real tools are sneaking around in tall grass or crawl spaces, taking down people from behind, and using a bow and arrow if you can find one. I would often try to be stealthy, but would often get caught because of a limited toolbox and had no choice but to just charge people or do a takedown as others were watching. For how much the game wants you to be stealthy, they sure do make it kind of difficult. Lastly, I want to talk about the various endings to this game. Spoiler free, of course. Like I said, there are 6 endings you can get depending on who you decide to help and trust. And the one I got was honestly kind of unfulfilling. So I took to YouTube to see the others, and I feel those 2 were largely unfulfilling. And I believe that mostly comes down to the delivery of the ending. In every situation, you get a very short in-engine cutscene, and then it cuts to a slideshow with a familiar voice narrating what happened. I feel like this is a very lazy way to talk about what you accomplished in the game, as it seems like all the choices you made and tasks you completed get boiled down to a couple of images and sentences. Although I do really enjoy the narrator in this section, I feel something with a bit more effort put in would have left a far better impression on me, as this ending delivery is easily my biggest gripe with Atomfall. All that to say, I did really enjoy my time with Atomfall. One of the intangible metrics I use to judge a game's quality is how much I look forward to playing it. Am I willing to push back other responsibilities to make time to play this game? With Atomfall, I was constantly thinking about the game, what I wanted to do next in it, and on busy days, what things I could put off to make sure I had time to play. It was a ton of fun putting myself into this world, so unsure of so many things and slowly piecing things together like a digital jigsaw puzzle. And the picture that digital jigsaw reveals at the end heavily depends on who you put your trust into. I loved how the quest structure was so open-ended, not really forcing you to help anyone you didn't want just for story's sake. You had full freedom to trust whoever you wanted for whatever reasons you saw fit. This game is not for everyone, but at the end of the day, it was definitely for me. And despite my reservations, I am very glad I decided to give it a go and trusted myself that I could figure it out. And I believe that if you are on the fence about this game, it just may work out in your favor. But of course, just like in Atomfall, it all depends on who you trust.
Oberon must die. Oberon must die.
I was prepared to call this my favorite game of 2025 so far, but the ending left just a little too sour a taste in my mouth for me to make that declaration. What I can declare is that I am very thankful for you giving me your time and attention in watching this video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button as it goes a long way for us here at Milkman Media. Next, I will be jumping into South of Midnight, as anything that takes place in the Deep South will get some interest out of me, and in full transparency, I already have that game finished at the time of recording, so video will be following shortly behind this one, probably a week after it. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that, as well as for all your other food and gaming needs. And lastly, let's talk Atomfall in the comments, what you thought about it, if you played it because of the Sniper Elite games, or just any thoughts you had on it, as it is truly a pretty unique game in my opinion. Or anything else you have on your mind or want to get off your chest, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thanks again for watching, I appreciate you, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.